Hello everyone. In this session, we are going to understand the access specifiers in Java. They are called as access specifiers or access modifiers. Generally, to define the public access or default access, private access, etc. So, in this session, we are going to understand what is a public default, that is no access specifier, and the private access. And there is also something called as protected, but this particular thing we are going to see when we will understand the concept of class inheritance, because this is more related to that. So let us begin by an example. So far you might have seen me creating the methods with like public, something like public void and say do this kind of a method. And I'm just going to call it as do this public. And simply let's create a statement inside that sysout, and I'm just going to say it's public method. Okay, simple. So in this particular class, access specifiers class, I have created a public method. Similarly, we can create a private method also. So if I just replace this public word with a private, it's going to get a private method. So private void, and I'm going to call it as do this private. So these are not like doing something, they are just going to display a public method or private method in the output. And just for example, so now I have another method that is a private method, and similarly I'm going to create another method that is just a default, so it will not even have a public or private or nothing, it's a default. So we are going to call it as do this default. Over here we have three methods: a public method, a private method, and a default method without any access specifier or access modifier. So when you do not specify a public or private or protected, it is by default treated as a no access specifier, and the default access level is given to it. Now let us understand who can access this public method, who can access this private method, and who can access this default method. Now when I say who, what is the level it can be accessed? Can it be accessed in the same class, or can it be accessed in the same package, or can it be accessed everywhere in the project? So we are currently in the sample project. So if I create an object of this access specifier class in some other packages of the project, then what are the methods which we can access, we cannot access? So access specifier generally talk about what is the access level of the different methods and different variables of the class. So concept that we are going to learn with the access methods is the same for the variables also. So the basic and the least visible access is the private access. Anything that we create as a private can be accessed only in the same class. So what I mean is, if I create another class inside the same package, so currently we are inside oops concept package. So inside this same package, if I create another class, I'm going to call it as access main, and I'm going to use the main method, so I can create the object of access specifiers class. So access specifier, I'm going to call it as AC is equal to new access specifier. And then now with respect to this object, let us see what are the methods which we can call here and what are the methods which we cannot call. So with AC dot do this public, okay, I'm able to call. AC dot do this default, I'm able to call. And I don't see do this private method over here. If you've seen the interlicense over here, I don't see that method. So if I try to call it forcefully, see what happens. So if I try to call that method over here forcefully, it is giving the compilation error. You see this red underline, dotted underline over here. That is the compilation error. It is saying that something is the issue. Now, if I take my cursor on the error, it can display what is the message, what is the error message over here. It says that the method do this private from the type access specifiers, that's the class name, is not visible. the method do this private is not visible. So what does this indicate? This indicates that whatever method we create as a private method, that is only visible and reusable in the same class where it is created. So if I have another method over here, and inside that other method, if I try to call the do this private, it is fine. You can do that. It can be reused and used only in the same class. So private is limited to the class itself where you create it. It's just limited to that particular class. If you try to use it anywhere else inside the same package or inside any other package in the project, it will not allow. So I am going to comment it. It's not allowed. Okay. Though at the same time we see that the public and the default access is fine. So as long as we are in the same package, we are good to use a public method and a default method. Now let us go inside the other package. Let me create another package over here. Let's create a temp package. And inside the temp package, let me create another class with the name as access main to, and I'm going to create a public method and I'm going to create the main method in that. Now let's do the same thing. Let's create the object of access specifiers class. Let us say AC2 is equal to new access specifiers. And with respect to this class, now there is another concept. Now if you try to use the class inside a package which is from outside of that package, now currently we are trying to create the object of access specifiers class inside the temp package, but access specifier is from some other package, that is oops concepts package. So it will show the compilation error in the beginning, but the reason is we need to import it. We need to import the class into this package, and then it will allow. So the easiest way to import is just take the cursor. Whenever you see this underlined red error, you can just take your cursor on that, and then Eclipse will show some quick fixes for you. And then most of the time, the very first quick fix is to import. So when you click on the import access specifiers from the oops concept package, it will import it for you. So one thing to understand is whenever you try to access a class which is from some other package, we need to import it. You can either write it yourself, or there is a shortcut by taking the cursor on the error, and inside the quick fixes you can import it. Okay. Now with respect to this object AC2, let us see what are the methods we can call. Okay, do this public is readily available in the interlicense. We can call it here. AC2 default is not available. Let me try to call it forcefully. Let me copy to this default and try to call it over here forcefully and see what does it say. And it is showing me compilation error. And when we take the cursor on that, it says the method do this default from the access specifier class is not visible. It is not visible. Again, it is saying that you cannot access a default method into a class which is outside of the package where it is created. So the access level for the default method, or a method which does not have any access specifier, one and the same, is only limited to the package itself. So this default method, when we create it inside a class, it can be accessed in that class and in the same package, not outside of the package. So this is not allowed. Though we can see the public is allowed over here. So we saw 3 levels of access. The most private, so the most restricted level of access is private. Anything that is private can be used only inside the class. Then the next level is the default. If you do not specify any access specifier, then the default is considered. And then default access is in the class and also inside the package. So our class inside the oops concepts have a default access method, and that method can be used in any other class of the same package, but not in any other class in the other packages. So that is why we are not able to use it over here. And then the third level of access is public access, where anything you create as public can be accessed everywhere in the class, in the package, and in the other classes of other packages. So that's the global level of access. Now, whatever is the true with the methods is the same concept with the variables also. For example, if I create the class level variables as public, int a is equal to say 100, and then I create int b is equal to 200, which is the default access variable, and then we create private int c is equal to 300, for example. So the access levels are same. Whatever you created as public can be accessed everywhere. The second variable, which is a default access, can be accessed in the same class, in the same package, but not allowed in the project. And when I say not allowed in the project, it means not allowed in other classes of other packages. And whatever you created as private, it's strictly private to the class itself. Only class can use it. Okay, so this is the concept of access specifiers in Java. Of course, there is one more access level that is called as protected access, which we will see in detail when we will understand the concepts of class inheritance. So for now, let us take a look at the table that represents different access levels. In the public, same class, same package, and the project level, all accesses are fine. Default can be accessed in the same class, in the same package, but when you try to go above the package, outside of the package, it cannot be accessed. And the private is strictly private to the class itself. In the same class you can use it. If you try to go outside of that class in the same package or in the other packages, it's not allowed. And then there is protected, which we'll see in future, but just for now understand protected is very similar to the default inside the package. If as long as you are in the same class and in the same package, it acts as the default access only, but its importance is when you try to go beyond the package. If you try to access it outside of the package, then it can be accessed if the class is inherited and cannot be accessed otherwise, which we'll see it in future. So these are the default access specifiers in Java.